Sam Carter stood aboard Warlord Threxion's flagship, staring at the impossibly large fleet through the viewport. Hundreds of warships drifted in formation, each one capable of raising planets, each one under control of a warlord who now believed he had acquired the galaxy's deadliest weapon. Him. The plan had worked. Too well. Threxion's palace ship was a behemoth of alien engineering. Sprawling halls of blackened steel, pulsating conduits that fed energy into weapons the size of city blocks. Everywhere, soldiers in crimson armor patrolled, their weapons ready. Sam had to fight the urge to whistle. Instead, he played his part. He moved with an air of controlled lethality, every step calculated, every motion just off enough to suggest something more than human. Threxion wanted a superweapon. Sam would make damn sure he feared what he had just bought. The warlord's throne room loomed ahead, ornate, towering, lined with the skulls of conquered foes. Xeric and the rest of the crew had been relegated to a side chamber, left to await payment. Sam, however, had been granted an audience. Threxion sat upon his throne, his forearms resting across the control panels embedded in its frame. His eyes gleamed with amusement. "Tell me, human," the warlord mused, "do you truly believe you can serve me?" Sam tilted his head, letting the silence stretch. "I think," he said finally, "that you should be asking whether you can afford to keep me." Threxion let out a low rumble of laughter. "Bold. I like that. I'm full of surprises." The warlord leaned forward. "Then prove it. My fleet requires a demonstration, a proper test." Sam's expression didn't waver. "What kind of test?" Threxion grinned, revealing rows of razor-edged teeth. "There is a rebel moon," he said, "heavily fortified, an infestation of resistance fighters. Your task is simple. Go down there and kill them. Show me that you are as deadly as Xeric claimed." Sam didn't hesitate. "Fine, but I'll need my crew." Threxion raised a brow. "Why?" "Because if I go down there, I'm not just killing them," Sam said smoothly. "I'm breaking them. And for that, I'll need tools." The warlord considered this, then grinned. "Very well. Amuse me, human." A plan born of madness. Back in the crew's quarters, Xeric's mandibles were clicking at warp speed. "You agreed to what?" "Relax," Sam said, cracking his knuckles. "We're not actually going to slaughter a bunch of rebels." Vorik's eyes narrowed. "Then what is your plan?" Sam smirked. "Step 1, we don't die." Grizak let out a booming laugh. "A solid first step." Selka crossed her arms. "Step 2. Sam's grin turned wolfish. "Step 2, we make sure Threxion never sees us coming." The rebellion. The transport ship screamed through the atmosphere, cutting toward the war-torn rebel moon. Sam sat in the cargo bay, checking his gear. No high-tech weapons. No power armor. Just his wits and an ungodly amount of nerve. Xeric paced. "If Threxion realizes we're deceiving him, he'll vaporize us and the entire moon." "Good thing he won't," Sam said, strapping in. Vorik gave him a skeptical look. "And why is that?" Sam grinned. "Because I'm about to do something no one expects." The ship landed in a barren wasteland, charred earth, wreckage from past battles, and the distant glow of rebel encampments. Sam stepped off first, arms raised, completely unarmed. A dozen rebel snipers had their weapons locked on him instantly. Sam smirked. "Take me to your leader." Turning the tables. The rebel leader, a scarred avian alien named Tor, studied Sam warily inside the underground bunker. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that Threxion thinks you're a superweapon?" "That's right. And you're here to fake invasion?" "Not exactly," Sam said. "I'm here to help you win." Tor's eyes narrowed. "Why should we trust you?" Sam leaned forward. "Because I know how warlords think, and I know how humans think. And right now, Threxion's entire fleet is watching." Tor hesitated. "What's your plan?" Sam grinned. "We sell him a war. Then we turn against him. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled. When the battle began, everything went wrong, exactly as planned. Sam and his crew stormed the base alongside the rebels, making sure it looked convincing for Threxion's orbital surveillance. Explosions lit up the sky. Fighters engage in dazzling aerial dogfights. Sam even staged a dramatic one-on-one duel with Kael'tor, ensuring the warlord spies captured the footage. And then, they turned the cameras off. Threxian's fleet expected a slaughter. Instead, the rebels funneled misinformation into the warlord's communication lines. Every intercepted report confirmed casualties, chaos, and a crumbling resistance, until at last, Threxian gave the order. Prepare the fleet for a planetary bombardment. Erase them all. The last laugh, Threxian's warships descended, eager to wipe out the remnants of the battle. And that's when Sam Carter's trap sprung. The rebels' hidden ground-to-space artillery came online all at once. Vorik had hacked Threxian's own fleet, turning their shield against them. Zyrek's black market contacts had jammed their communications. And Sam? He led the final charge. The warlord's fleet burned. His forces panicked. His empire crumbled in real time. By the time Threxian realized the deception, it was already over. And Sam Carter? He was gone. Aftermath. Back aboard Zyrek's ship, the crew sat in stunned silence. Grizak let out a deep, satisfied chuckle. That, he rumbled, was insane. Selka smirked. And yet, somehow we're alive. Vorik still looked like he was processing it. He believed you. Even when the evidence was nonsense, even when the logic didn't hold, he still believed you. Sam leaned back, resting his boots on the console. That's the thing about people like Threxian, he said. They think power comes from fear, from force. He shrugged. But real power? Real power is making people believe whatever the hell you want them to. Zyrek exhaled sharply. Remind me never to gamble with you, Carter. Sam grinned. Smart choice. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Sam Carter, the most dangerous weapon the galaxy had ever seen, closed his eyes and smirked. Somewhere out there, another warlord was about to make the mistake of underestimating a human. And Sam? He couldn't wait. The containment field hummed around Sam Carter as he hung suspended, bathed in eerie, flickering light. He'd been strapped in for effect, thick cables running from his limbs to Vorik's modified energy relays, giving the illusion that he was some kind of barely contained force of destruction. And so far, Threxian was buying it. The warlord's voice crackled through the comms again. I assume this weapon is functional. Zyrek, ever the salesman, bowed slightly. It is more than functional, great warlord. This is the pinnacle of Terran bioweapon technology. A prototype, harnessing the raw power of human ingenuity and adaptability. He gestured toward Sam dramatically. This being has survived black holes, chemical warfare, and direct exposure to vacuum. It has fought entire battalions unarmed. Its instincts are unpredictable, its strategy unmatched. In the right hands, it is a fleet-destroying force. A long silence followed, then a deep, rumbling laugh. Oh, this I must see. The ship shuddered as Threxian's forces activated the docking clamps, pulling Zyrek's vessel into their mothership's hangar bay. A final warning flashed on Vorik's monitors, the moment of no return. Sam flexed his fingers against the restraints. Showtime. The boarding party. The docking ramp hissed open. Armed soldiers in dark crimson armor stormed in first, weapons raised, forming a defensive perimeter. Their eyes swept the room, landing on a containment unit where Sam hung motionless, his body still crackling with simulated energy discharges. Behind them, Warlord Threxian the Unyielding entered. He was massive, even by alien standards, towering at least 8 feet tall, his exoskeletal armor gleaming in the harsh hangar lights. His mandibles curled in what might have been amusement, and his 4 muscular arms rested on an array of weapons strapped to his belt. His dark eyes, intelligent and predatory, studied Sam. So, Threxian mused, circling the containment unit. This is the legendary power of humanity? Sam let his head tilt forward slightly, opening his eyes with a slow, deliberate motion. He exhaled sharply, letting his breath steam against the energy field's flickering glow. Time to sell the act. You have no idea, he rasped. The warlord chuckled. We shall see. With a flick of his wrist, Threxian gestured to one of the soldiers. A burly enforcer stepped forward, removing a control panel from his armor. He tapped a sequence of commands, and the containment field deactivated. The hangar fell silent. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Every alien soldier's grip on their weapon tightened. Even Zurich looked like he was debating whether he'd just made the worst business decision of his life. Sam let himself drop from the containment harness, landing in a slow, controlled crouch. Then he straightened, rolling his shoulders as though shaking off some immense power. No one spoke. He took a single step forward. One of the soldiers flinched. Sam smiled, testing the weapon. Threction folded his lower arms, raising one of his upper hands. An impressive display. He glanced at his enforcer. But I do not make purchases based on words alone. I require a demonstration. The enforcer nodded and barked a command. 2 more guards stepped forward, shoving the prisoner onto the hangar floor, a scrawny, terrified-looking reptilian alien with bruises on his face. Sam's stomach twisted. A captured rebel, Threction explained. Kill him. Zurich stiffened. This hadn't been part of the plan. Sam felt the eyes of the crew on him. Vorik's nervous calculations, Selka's barely concealed distress, even Grizak's wary interest. Sam kept his expression neutral. He needed to play this right. He took a slow step toward the prisoner, eyes locked on Threction's. You want a demonstration? His voice was low, controlled. Fine. In one smooth motion, he lunged, but not at the prisoner. Sam grabbed one of the guards instead, twisting the alien's rifle up and around, using his own strength against him. A shot went wild, slamming into the hangar wall. The second guard barely had time to react before Sam drove his elbow into his throat, sending him gasping to the floor. The hangar erupted into chaos. Weapon unleashed. Threction roared in laughter. Not anger. Laughter. Incredible, he bellowed, clapping his lower hands together as his soldiers scrambled to contain the situation. A weapon that chooses its own targets. Truly, the humans are as unpredictable as they say. Sam released a stunned guard and took a step back, tossing the rifle to the floor with casual indifference. You wanted proof? He spread his arms. That was me going easy. Threction's eyes gleamed with interest. Zurich, catching on, stepped forward hastily. As you can see, Warlord, the human's combat potential is unmatched. He doesn't merely follow orders. He analyzes, adapts, and overcomes. Imagine what he could do under your command. The Warlord considered this, stroking one of his mandibles. Yes, I see the potential. He turned back to Sam. And what do you say, Terran? Would you serve me? Sam tilted his head, considering. That depends. Threction raised an eyebrow. On what? Sam smiled. On whether you can keep up. The next step, Threction barked another laugh. Good. I like you, human. I will take you aboard my flagship personally. Zurich's shoulders sagged in relief. The deal was made. Sam, meanwhile, glanced toward his crew. Selka's expression was tight with worry. Vorik was calculating probabilities at an alarming rate. Grizak looked entertained. Zurich just wanted to get paid and get out. But Sam knew the truth. This wasn't over. The moment they set foot on Threction's ship, things would escalate. He had bluffed his way this far. But now, he was walking into the lion's den, and he'd have to improvise his way out. Sam Carter had been in worse situations. Not many, mind you, but enough to recognize the signs. The way Zurich the profiteer paced in frantic circles, his mandibles clicking as he schemed. The way Vorik the spindly engineer scrutinized him like an unsolved equation. The way Grizak, the brute, loomed in the corner, nursing his ribs and plotting revenge. The only one who wasn't openly hostile was Selka, the ship's medic. She sat cross-legged on a nearby crate, watching him with a kind of wide-eyed curiosity that made Sam deeply uncomfortable. So, he drawled, breaking the silence. What's the play here, folks? You gonna sell me to this warlord? Make me fight in some intergalactic death match? He shrugged. Because I gotta be honest, I like my odds. Zurich stopped pacing. No, he said, rubbing his temples. Well, maybe. That depends. On whether you can actually do what humans are rumored to do. Sam folded his arms. Which is, Vorik adjusted his multi-lens goggles. Survive impossible. Adapt to any scenario. Turn weakness into strength. His fingers twitched, as though eager to dissect Sam and confirm the theory. Frankly, I find the idea improbable. Sam smirked. And yet, you're still considering it. Zurich sighed. I have no choice. Warlord Threction is expecting a shipment of the deadliest weapons in the galaxy. I do not have those weapons. His eyes flicked to Sam. I do have you. Sam exhaled. So, let me get this straight. You want me to be your weapon? Zurich spread his forearms. Can you? Sam rolled his shoulders. Give me a day. The human problem-solving process. Zurich gave him 12 hours before they reached Threxion's rendezvous point. Sam spent the first 30 minutes gathering information. Step 1, learning the ship. Vorik, clearly still skeptical, had begrudgingly granted him access to non-critical systems. The moment Sam got his hands on the interface, he nearly laughed. The ship's security? Overcomplicated to the point of uselessness. The alien crew relied on biometric scans and passcodes with hundreds of characters, completely missing the fact that their system had zero safeguards against social engineering and physical bypasses. Sam disabled half the ship's locks using nothing but a bent piece of wire in Vorik's own personal access code, which he watched him enter from over his shoulder. Vorik had looked personally offended. Step 2, assessing the crew. Selka, the medic, was fascinated by human physiology. She asked an unsettling number of questions about Sam's endurance, pain tolerance, and ability to digest toxic substances. She nearly fainted when he told her humans could survive on caffeine alone for days. Grizak, still itching for revenge, challenged Sam to another fight. Instead of accepting, Sam goaded him into an arm wrestling match. Then he cheated spectacularly, using leverage, distraction, and a well-timed insult about Grizak's mother to win. Grizak had roared in frustration, and then, to Sam's surprise, laughed. Step 3, formulating a plan. By the time Zurich returned, clearly expecting failure, Sam had a full-fledged strategy. All right, Sam said, rolling up his sleeves. Here's how we're going to win. The plan. You're assuming we're losing already, Zurich muttered. Sam ignored him. He pointed to Vorik. We fake a catastrophic systems failure. Something critical. Navigation, maybe. That makes us seem vulnerable. Vorik's antennae twitched. And why would we want to appear weak? Sam grinned. Because then they'll board us instead of blowing us up. Zurich's mandibles clicked. I fail to see how that's better. Because step 2, Sam continued, is giving them exactly what they want. Selka tilted her head, which is... Sam spread his arms. A superweapon. Grizak snorted. You. Me, Sam confirmed. But not as I am. His smirk turned wolfish. We're going to sell the illusion that I'm something more. The bait. An hour later, Sam stood in the center of the cargo bay, strapped to a massive containment unit. Thick cables running from his arms to glowing alien tech. His body shimmered under the artificial glow of Vorik's modified energy field, making his silhouette look unstable, dangerous, otherworldly. Selka had even smeared some sort of bioluminescent gel across his skin, which Sam had assured was only mildly toxic. Zurich examined the setup warily. So, the story is that you're a prototype? A bio-enhanced Terran War asset, Sam corrected. A living weapon of mass destruction, captured and deactivated for transport. Vorik scowled. And what happens when Threxion realizes you're just an ordinary human? Sam's smirk deepened. He won't. The arrival. Threxion's war fleet emerged from hyperspace like a pack of hungry wolves. Massive, angular ships bristling with weaponry surrounded Zurich's vessel, locking on with tractor beams. Zurich, ever the consummate businessman, composed himself just enough to greet Threxion's communications officer. Esteemed representatives of the unyielding Dominion, he said with a practiced bow. May I present, he gestured to the containment unit, where Sam hung suspended in the eerie glow, the weapon. There was a pause, then a guttural, amused voice crackled over the comms. Interesting, Threxion mused. I had expected plasma cannons. But this? This may be far more entertaining. Sam allowed himself a slow, predatory grin. They'd taken the bait. Now, all he had to do was sell the illusion long enough to take them down from the inside. Zurich the profiteer prided himself on efficiency. Every deal, every shipment, every under-the-table exchange had to be precise. He built his empire on reliability, ensuring that his clients, tyrants, warlords, and opportunistic rebels, always got what they paid for, which is why, as he stood in the cargo bay of his flagship, staring at the lone, bewildered human standing in the middle of an otherwise empty shipping container, he felt an unfamiliar sensation claw at his gut. Panic. Zurich's mandibles clicked in agitation as he whirled toward his quartermaster. Wary, hissed, "Are my weapons?" The quartermaster, a nervous, three-eyed Jelsin named Doric, checked his datapad again, then again, as if the numbers might suddenly correct themselves. This is a shipment, sir." Zurich turned back to the human. He was male, lean but muscular, dressed in a dark, flexible jumpsuit with reinforced plating. No visible weapons. No power armor. Just a smirk that suggested he was either very stupid or very dangerous. The human lifted a hand. "Hi." Zurich's forearms twitched. "Who are you? Where are my plasma rifles? My disruptor cannons? I paid a fortune for an arsenal that could turn a warlord's enemies to dust." The human scratched the back of his head. "Right. About that. I think there's been a mix-up." "You think?" Zurich's voice screeched into ultrasonic frequencies. "I was promised the deadliest weapons in the galaxy, and instead, I get one soft-skinned primitive." The human sighed, rolling his shoulders like a man getting ready for a long explanation. "First of all, rude. Second, my name's Lieutenant Sam Carter, Special Operations Terran Defense Force. And third, I have absolutely no idea how I got here." Zurich felt his spines bristle. He turned to Doric. "Explain." The quartermaster swallowed hard. According to the manifest, this was an experimental shipment from a Terran military supplier. Classified cargo, sent via high-priority quantum displacement. Zurich narrowed his eyes. "And instead of a cache of advanced human weaponry, I got a human." Carter held up a finger. "A human, yes, but if it helps, I've been called a real piece of work." A growl echoed from the far side of the cargo bay. A hulking figure detached from the shadows, massive and armored, with thick, plated skin and tusks that could gore through steel. Grizak, Zurich's enforcer, loomed forward, his beady eyes locked onto Sam. "This is the deadly human?" Grizak rumbled. His voice was a landslide, deep and threatening. "Looks like food to me." Carter lifted an eyebrow. "I'm stringy. Too much cardio." Grizak grinned, all jagged teeth. "I like a challenge." Before Zurich could intervene, Grizak lunged. Fast, brutal, like a battering ram aimed at a brick wall. But Carter moved first. In a single, fluid motion, he sidestepped, pivoted, and drove an elbow into Grizak's exposed side. The alien brawler roared in pain. It wasn't a crippling strike. Grizak was built like a tank, but it was precise, hitting a nerve cluster most aliens wouldn't have even noticed. Grizak staggered. He glared down at Carter, expression flickering between fury and amusement. "Lucky shot." Carter smirked. "Let's call it a warning." A snort, then a laugh. A deep laugh, full of menace and, oddly, approval. Zurich's mind raced. The warlord Threction the Unyielding was expecting a weapons shipment in less than 2 cycles. If he didn't get what he paid for, Zurich's business, and likely his life, was over. A single human was not a shipment of superweapons, but a single human had just humiliated his deadliest enforcer. A thought took root, growing faster than Zurich could suppress it. He turned to Vorik, his engineer, a spindly, crab-like creature with too many fingers and a constant look of scientific condescension. You're supposed to be smart." Vorik preened at the compliment. "Obviously. Are humans dangerous?" Vorik hesitated. "Well, that depends." Zurich exhaled sharply. "Depends on what?" "On how creative they're feeling." Carter gave a mock salute. "Oh, I'm always feeling creative." Zurich's mandibles clicked. He could work with this. If he couldn't deliver traditional weapons, he'd deliver something better. He'd deliver a human. And if the legends about their kind were true, Threction wouldn't know what hit him.